proud now to introduce our panel for our summer conference on change in the propane industry. Our moderator today is Mike Hopsicker from Ray Murray and former president of the New York Propane Gas Association, very involved in our industry in a variety of different levels. And as you'll learn, the panelists that we have today are also very, very well-versed in our industry and bring to us a lot of knowledge and background. So Mike, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. And thank you for getting such a great panel. It's my pleasure to introduce the panel in, I guess, alphabetical order. We'll start with Steve Abbate, who is the CEO and owner of Cetane Associates. Many of you know Steve and his great company. And then Christina Armentano, who is executive vice president of Paraco Gas. Christina has also been very involved in New York Propane Gas Association and the industry. And then we have Jared Bartle. Jared is the president of Blue Ox Energy. Jared, welcome to the panel. And
Thank
Peter
you.
Bourne. Peter is the owner of Bourne's Energy. And change in the propane industry is the topic, or the theme, if you will. And so we'll start out with a question about change. And we all have to deal with change going forward. So my question to the panel is, how do you view change, and how does maybe your company view change, and maybe talk a little bit about your approach to change management? Anybody want to go first?
Mike, I'm happy to jump in first. So, you know, when you think of the word change, I think we have to all realize as leaders that that can be a somewhat scary and uncomfortable word for many people, right, within an organization. I think it's really important, and this has been my approach and our organizational approach. When we look at change, you really have to look at opportunity. So whether it is a positive change or a challenging change, you know, what is that silver lining that is resulting as a result of this change? You know, as we have seen through this COVID environment, a lot of things have changed, and we as an organization have truly had to adapt and pivot to it. So, you know, I think for us, our view has been be as open and understanding to how change may impact employees and employee morale, as much as you can be proactive in a changing environment and be prepared. That is critical. And then, you know, lastly, make sure that you continue to see the positive that can come out of changes that may be impacted.
I'll just jump in and kind of tag with what Christina said. I look at the history of our organization from many years ago. You know, we used to just be fuel oil, and it was change that kind of brought us into the propane industry, and it was a really good opportunity for us, kind of done out of necessity when the oil markets were going crazy. And we're very happy with being in the propane community now, and it's served us very well. It's been very profitable. We feel we do it very well. Our customers really like it. It's given us another choice to market to you know, a clean fuel. You know, fuel oil still's got that dirty word to it, and propane doesn't quite have that. And I think we've done a pretty good job of educating people that it is a clean fuel. We have to continue to do that, but certainly change has brought a lot of good opportunities for our organization.
I think here at Bourne's, we pride ourselves for not thinking in the box, thinking out of the box. And, you know, our staff really here is, if somebody says we've always done it this way, it really kind of, if nothing else, my radar goes up and saying, well, then we obviously need to look at it, because if we're doing the same thing the same way that we were doing it a few years ago, then obviously we haven't looked at it. I'm not saying we're perfect at it, but as long as the staff understands what the goal is or what we're looking to do, and again, I'd love to say we articulate that beautifully every time. We do not, but we do try to help everybody understand why we're going in whatever direction we've chosen, be it a small process or a larger jump of some sort.
Thanks.
I'll jump in on as far as change goes. A lot of what we look at is trend analysis. We tend to look at things from the financial side of the business. It doesn't mean we're looking at balance sheets and income statements, although we are, but we're also looking at change in things like driver wages and expenses. So we're always trying to try to project and predict as much as you can. But then you get thrown curveballs. And I think that we're actually, that's the last question we have, is talking about change management. But in general, we look at change as a little bit unpredictable sometimes, and to build in that flexibility to address the changes that get thrown at us.
Thank you, everybody. And I'm gonna follow this up to something that wasn't on your sheet, but I'm sure you thought about it as you thought about this question, which is you can't say COVID. COVID is not a valid answer. What has been the biggest change that impacted your business, that you've had to go through?
Yeah, so what comes to mind for me, and Mike, I love the question because everybody can easily go to COVID, right? So I think about January of 2018. And for those folks that will remember that brutal, brutal cold spell that we had, and the polar vortex, and the 10 straight days of just frigid weather. For us, that was something that really impacted our business and changed our business for the better during that period of time. And I know a lot of other marketers experienced this too. There was an increase of demand and phone calls and you name it. And for us, that was many times in our history, but that's one that comes to mind for me. It was pivotal because we had to look at our business and really step back and build upon our foundation and make some really critical changes, specifically within our customer service department, and be able to handle situations where now unforeseeable volume and things that we can't predict may or may not happen. And really, as a result of that, we were able to pivot very quickly during COVID and bring everybody remote because of that. But that's just an example for us. And it was again, a crisis that we were able to turn into a positive over time.
Yeah, during that winter, we kind of underwent the same thing. We had to really step back and look at our supply infrastructure, from supplier all the way to how much storage do we have, and adding our own trailers. And it really changed the dynamic of our business because it was a huge, huge struggle. I hadn't been in a home delivery truck in probably 15 years. And guess where I spent most of the winter was in a home delivery truck. But it was very, very difficult. And I think that was really important for our people to kind of see maybe some of the upper management being in that position too, because they were working 7 days a week and some of them were getting pretty burnt out. So after we got through that, and I think the only reason they did that is because they saw us chipping in and doing the same thing. Once we got through that, we stepped back and said, how can we be a better company? What do we need to do? Just investing in ourselves, and so that we have peace of mind during those spikes in demand. And obviously with the exports going on, we could get there again.
I think with us, much like you, Jared, if you got the license and the paperwork, you're in a truck, and that's where I spent part of my winter. I'm just not really interested in driving truck a lot anymore. So that, hopefully the opportunity will not arrive for me anyway. But I think that the changes that really are making a difference for us is getting everybody electronically attached, be it the service department or the drivers, and really getting that information out there quicker, cleaner, more efficiently, and hopefully reducing processes in the building, although I'm not sure the jury's still out maybe on that one. But I think that getting, the way the world has gone the last couple of years is really trying to, one, staffing at any level is a challenge, as anybody will testify to, but trying to get, invest in that technology to reduce, or at least, have the functions being pertinent and useful, not, bureaucratic, hopefully.
Excellent. So adapting to technology is a big change. And Jared and Christina, you mentioned you're really a crisis, and having to react to a crisis. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Never waste a good crisis. And obviously now we can talk about COVID because this pandemic has caused a big crisis. So how has that changed your work or anything about your business?
How was the pandemic? I'm sorry.
Yeah, COVID pandemic.
Yeah. Christine, I'll go first this time, I guess. It changed our business obviously for the better, like a lot of people on the panel will probably say. And fortunately, we have been a big believer in technology for a long time, but we've never really had to test it to that level. So it was good that we did. We proved that we could allow people to work from home, give them those options, allow the flexibility while still being able to communicate with the customers to let them know what's going on. If we had a driver that was out or a couple of drivers or a technician, we've invested in the technology to be able to communicate with them so that the end user, the customer, always is being communicated with. It's too easy. I guess it was too difficult in the old days before we did that to try to, let every customer know that maybe you weren't going to be there or later or sooner. I was very, very thankful that we had the technology that we did to be able to still service our customers in a timely manner. I don't think the way we used to do business, I think we would have probably lost a lot of business because we wouldn't have been able to perform. And I think we probably would have lost a lot of people because we wouldn't have been able to have the tools in place to allow them to work from home. I think we came out of that much better in a different culture, and a lot of people have seen it. And I think that's ultimately what makes them stick around here. They came to work every day, not because they were getting a paycheck or they were logging on or whatever, but they ultimately wanted to do what was best for the company. And I think it's because they value where they work and who they work with, whether that's, working with upper management or just their coworkers. They really enjoyed the atmosphere. And I think a lot of that revolves around the technology piece that my predecessor certainly was a big believer in. And I'm thankful that he pushed that so hard.
And I think that, for us, the opportunities that came with, as you say, don't waste a good crisis, is really the established habits of, technicians and drivers showing up at the office every morning, and, you're sitting out, can't get them out the door, out the yard sort of thing. And just recognizing that the contacts in the building, reducing that and changing some long established habits that were not particularly helpful. And this, this has gone on long enough that hopefully, and I really underline the word hopefully, that we've changed those habits and improving the productivity, getting people out the door, getting to the customers as planned on time, and for the drivers as well. The less interactions we're having from staff to outside staff, the inside, not that we shouldn't have it and we don't encourage it, but we do that by doing it this way has really helped it. I think that one of the biggest surprises to me is Zoom meetings, because we do Zoom meetings for techs and ones for drivers. We are never going back to meeting together in a group. The Zoom meetings save so much time, save so much travel, so much of the guy in the back of the room trying to be the funniest kid in the class. I mean, that stuff's all gone away. And we get through those meetings in 45 minutes, hour at the most, and everybody, it's saved us God knows how much. It's just amazing. It's wonderfully amazing.
Interesting. Very nice.
I'll jump in on this one. I think this crisis has really highlighted how our industry is an essential industry. Again, we deal with a lot of valuation items. And I can tell you there's, I think of one situation where there's a private equity group that's heavily vested in this industry. And these private equity groups own various groups of companies in different industries. And one of them owned a national chain of flea markets. and they were closed during that time. And so their investors were like, hey, you know, we really like this fuel industry. We should be putting money into it. We should be investing into it. And we've seen that not just in that case, but across everything. I know we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, particularly in New York State. But overall, I think this pandemic has really highlighted the need for us as an industry in general.
Mike, I'll jump in as well. The technology piece, as I know has been mentioned, is definitely critical. But the other theme I'm hearing is also the employee relationship, with leadership within an organization, and how there is now such a expectation, I think, of us to not only provide, professional development to our employees, but also personal development. COVID was a really challenging time for many people for all the reasons that don't really need to be addressed here because they're quite obvious. But even to Peter's point, as we've become more efficient through technology and the communication may have decreased, that makes it even more important that what we're saying and how we're saying it to our teams is even more critical. I know we're going to talk later about the driver shortage, but I think all of this goes to culture and how we really have to emphasize the importance day in and day out of our workforce to overcome some of those challenges and shortfalls we're seeing within the workforce at this point in time.
Very good, very good. Just another follow-up. Peter mentioned he's going to continue his Zoom meetings. Anybody going to have their employees keep working from home, or does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well,
Yeah, we have some that work better from home. I mean, they play better when they're playing their own sandbox than they do playing in the company one. And as long as they're performing and meeting, the requirements, God bless, let's go.
We have one person who's still working remotely, but we talk about it all the time and would certainly leave that open as an option. Most of the people that are here kind of want to be here, I think, just because probably working from home might be a challenge with them because they got, 3 or 4 kids running around. But we've talked about it beyond that in marketing to, how do we bring in and recruit talent? Is that an option that is important to people, which we're finding out that it is. So that might be another just tool in our hip pocket that we can use to hopefully retain, recruit and keep the talent that's out there, the limited talent.
We're actually kind of going back to pre-COVID. We've always worked remotely in our company, but we are excited about getting out to various industry events and shaking hands and seeing clients in person. We've actually had some clients that who I never thought would want to be on a Zoom, have requested Zoom calls, but we're very much an in-person type organization, and we are getting pretty much back to pre-COVID in our company.
I think this also gives us an opportunity to look at what's working and what's not, to go back exactly as we were previously. I don't know if that's necessarily the best way. Jared, as you mentioned, now this virtual environment gives us this opportunity, especially if it's an office employee, to really recruit from anywhere, potentially within the Northeast or within the state of New York, right? So we're looking at it through this lens of, we still have our teams working remotely who can and who've chosen to. There's also, if you can hold them accountable, listen, there's a reduction you can have with overheads, right? Whether it's a facility or equipment, whatever it might be, that you can reinvest in the company. So I think to the point of looking virtual, and if we're going to continue to do that, man, after this pandemic, we all should be looking at our business through a very close lens to see what we can be doing differently and what that looks like and how it can impact us favorably.
Thank you, everybody. I should say to the people watching, if anybody has a question for the panel, feel free to put it up on the chat, and we'd be happy to entertain it and have the group entertain it. So, okay, Christina, you mentioned the driver shortage, and I know everyone's feeling the driver shortage. Anybody wants to take this, what do you guys think we need to do to recruit and retain good people relative to drivers?
I can jump in on this one.
Yeah.
I've done several business valuations in the last year, and we're always looking at staffing as part of that. I've ran across 3 companies in the last year that didn't have a driver situation. 2 of them were because of the wages that they paid. I know people might not want to hear this, but they were some of the highest wages I'd ever seen. In one particular case, most of their drivers were 6 figures, and this is not in a metropolitan area. And I questioned it, with the owner, and he said, "Hey, we make it up in the margin. We get out there. We continually grow our business." But I did want to mention this other company who doesn't take that view. They take a different view, and I thought it was really unique. They actually did a survey, and they sent the survey to the employees' homes so that their spouse could read the survey and chime in on it. And it was about things that they could do to make their work life better. And it ended up resulting in they built a locker room, and they had a workout facility, and they had laundry there for them. And that was something that the drivers really wanted to have. They wanted to have that place to change their clothes before they went home, and where they could go, and there's a camaraderie there. And so they have a driver rodeo every year, so the drivers get excited about it, and they give out prizes. That company has a waiting list for drivers to work there, people that want to come work there. I thought that was very unique. And the other thing I'll throw in with that is we all get up in the morning and we go to work, and we like to have a nice office and a comfortable chair. And we find that drivers want to have a nice truck. They love their vehicles. So the other way I think you can attract drivers is to put them in nice vehicles. You can, with bonus depreciation, you can write the whole thing off in a year. So think about investing a little bit into your vehicles to make a nice workplace for your drivers. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I'll jump in. Let me piggyback off of what Steve is hitting on here, which I think is framing. First, you got to start with retaining. Recruiting is obviously critical, but if you can retain who you have, you're not going to be in that position to recruit. But it's that being able, I think, to communicate that total package, right? And what else differentiates yourself from, other folks, but what they find important. For us, and I think we're all struggling with this right now, drivers and frontline employees continue to look at what they're paid on an hourly basis. Okay. So whether you give them a bonus, they have great health care, they got the locker room, they got whatever it is, they're going to continue to look at that hourly rate. So I'm very aligned with Steve, where we have to continue to communicate to them on a pretty regular basis what that full package is, but more importantly, asking them what is important to them. The other thing I'll touch on is on the recruitment piece. I don't think it's a shock to anybody that I'm a huge proponent of continuing to get this message out on other vocational schools, how important this industry is, and getting folks in when they're young, and trying to, where we can, do an apprenticeship program. So it's something that not just Paraco needs to do, but it's something all propane companies need to come together to collectively do to really move the needle. And there's a lot of great organizations out there that are already doing this. But again, there's power in numbers on this.
One
Yeah, and
thing,
I'll probably just take it back to technology a little bit, because one of the problems that we always have is the on-call situation. And anytime, any interview I've ever been involved in, I've tried to paint the bleakest picture possible of what a winter can look like in this industry. But it's always sunny and 75 when we're doing the interview, and they're just kind of giving me lip service. Yeah, I understand. And but when the rubber meets the road in the middle of winter, it's a different story, and they really get burnt out by it. They specifically get burned out when it's unnecessary on call. So utilizing technology again to try to limit the amount of on-call hours that they need to go out, I think will really help eliminate the burnout that they receive, because inevitably they get burnt out and then they start looking for something else that, you know, they can do 9 to 5 or 5 to 5, whatever it is. But when they're home, they're home.
one thing I say we've been reasonably successful. I don't want to make it sound like we found the unicorn, because that definitely did not happen. But we are working with a large lumber yard, and with their drivers, we have up to 3 seasonal drivers that come to us in November, December. It's a little late, but they come on board, and it works great. The downsides we're running into, and which, you know, there's always something out there, that one is we pay higher than the lumberyard does. Tracking the health insurance, so they had continued health insurance, and how that was structured to make sure that, you know, the driver was not compromising the coverage. And the workman's comp was a bit of a dance, but we worked through that. But we've made the agreement was we would not try to hire their drivers full time, which is all fine and good until their drivers go, I don't want to go back there, and if you don't hire me, I'm going to go someplace else. And then you got this whole raft of stuff that you're dealing with and trying to, you know, you have these drivers, and these guys have been, you know, we've been very fortunate. The ones that have come on board have been really go-getters. But you know, there is some stuff you got to pay attention to. But again, if you can find somebody who's got underemployed drivers who do not want to lay theirs off any more than any of us can do now, if you come up with the right package, it's something you could reasonably approach and see what happens.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. There's a question that came in. So anybody wants to take this? What changes have you made that didn't work out as well as you hoped? Who wants to address that?
I think that, you know, for us, it's really when we try things, is, you know, historically we're not going all in. We're feeling our way in, and when you feel your way in, you feel your way back out when it's not, you know, it's not working. I mean, we've opened several offices over the years that we rented the office and we hired some staff, but we always said, well, if it doesn't work, we can, you know, dump the rent and we're out of there. We've given it a try, it didn't work, and things of that nature. So it wasn't like we were committing, making a commitment that we couldn't recover from. It's really, you know, what's your gut telling you? At my age, is what's your gut telling you? What's it feel like? And is it working, or is it time to, you know, to declare victory and go home?
Yeah,
I know we've had over the past few years, we've made a lot of changes internally about workload and structuring who gets what. And at the time, they would make a lot of sense. And the thought being it would be eliminate or at least reduce overhead, which it did. But there was, you know, maybe it wasn't as well thought out as we wanted it to be or should have been. And then it would turn around and kind of bite us in the ass later on when we thought that they would be okay. And or we didn't have, you know, bench strength. It's all good to keep it real lean and mean, but if you don't have bench strength when somebody goes out, now you've kind of created another problem. So we've done a good job at looking back and saying, what did we do, what didn't we do, and making adjustments. But there's certainly been a lot of changes we've made that didn't quite pan out as we envisioned. But I think it's important just to be nimble, admit you're made a mistake, and move on and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question, guys. Has anybody experienced or anybody did a trial and error of having a driver come in, no CDL, no hazmat, no training, nothing, and go through the steps to get this driver invested in everything, credentials that we need and training that, you know, we also need, and then put them out there. Has anybody ever gone that route? I've tried it in the past and it's kind of like crashed and burned, because once they get a little taste of what our business is like, it's like, oh, well, I didn't sign up for pulling a hose through 3 feet of snow. I'm just wondering, have you guys, you know, done that route?
We have, it hasn't always panned out. I think we've had a
Yeah.
couple that lasted for a while, but I mean, you start getting desperate, you know, and even guys who have had some experience to maybe a CDL, over the road guys have been 30 years, all of a sudden they come in, you know, they see what we have to go through, the driveways we have to get in, and doesn't work out. But we've had some success with no experience, just not a lot. And there's a long lead time on getting the necessary windshield time to trust them
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, you put them in a $175,000 or $190,000
Yeah.
propane truck or oil truck and then expect them to go out. Yeah, it's a trustworthy situation. It's really, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Hey, Chris, I like to touch on that as well. The other thing it makes me think of, and we've had some success, you know, similar to Jared with that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what we have found that's been very beneficial has been shadowing for those that do have their CDL, who have the qualifications, especially for really more physically, what I would call physically intensive jobs when we're doing barbecue exchange. So, or if it's anything at our production facility, actually having the candidate go out for a day, signs a waiver first, but he is physically seeing, to your point on pulling the hose, what does this really entail? And we've tried to really follow the metrics behind, you know, turnover, as well as applicants that have come through, and implementing that type of strategy has helped, as folks don't get there now day 2 or day 3 and say, well, shit, this isn't what I signed up for, right? So for those that aren't doing that, that has been very beneficial for us.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Chris, for that question. All right. Peter, I just want to follow up on your sharing with the lumber company, because going way back to my Agway days, we tried to do that between the energy and the crops guys, and all the issues that you talked about were all the same issues. You know, do we get them in time? The energy pays more than the crops division. All those same issues, and we had the same benefits and weren't able to work it out, you know, between us. So those are tough issues. But to the extent you've done it, I think that's because it's really a good. If you can figure out those issues, it really is a good, you know, opportunity for at least some seasonal drivers.
Absolutely. I mean, but it's not easy. It's not without pain, but you know, as we all know, trying to find the drivers has pain. So do you have that reliable contact, reliable customer, reliable, you know, opportunity there that, you know, everybody honors and sticks to it. And the drivers, you know, again, the drivers make a very good living working for us for the 4 months we have them, something like that, 4 to 5 months. It's a little bit of a trick, but it's a lot better than some of the alternatives, which, again, much as Chris was saying a moment ago, bringing somebody in and, you know, having a moment of prayer and putting them out there is just, you know, that's a tough one.
We actually we teamed up with a blacktopper years ago in my family business days, when we actually hired 2 or 3 seasonal from one blacktop company, because he was really having a hard time getting drivers. So good friend of ours, good friend of the family's, good customer of ours, we said, hey, listen, you know, let's sit down. And they were great. They were happy just to be working. They didn't want to be laid off in the wintertime. Most of them had families to feed. We actually, the same blacktopper we have 2 drivers that are going to come work for us this winter from the same company. So that's another avenue. Blacktop is a big thing because they're not laying blacktop in the winter for sure.
We've had pretty good luck like that too. And I find most of those guys, because I've approached a few of them, they would say, what do I want to come work for you for in the winter? I get paid unemployment. So probably not going to be a good fit, even if they had to. They're just not gonna
Depends if they're like, you know, young and just don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
you're
the
right.
ones that really, they really want to work, they're like, I can't sit still. I don't want to sit home all winter long. I want to be out there working. So, and they're real go-getters. The ones that we've had have been very good so far.
You know, we've had good luck with the independent guys with dump trucks and up our way. I mean, we have it's fairly common. And some of these guys, you know, really, again, these guys are the go-getters and they actually know how to take care of a truck. Well,
That's
most
true.
of them, I wouldn't want to make that universal. But the point being, these guys at wintertime, they're not hauling gravel. They might be, but you know, the hours and the work, they're regular. And again, some of the guys, we've been very fortunate. They've been really guys that, you know, really know how to hump it out there.
I also want to throw in some companies will, they'll keep their employees, their drivers all year long, and they'll look for other businesses to diversify into. We have a client right now who got into the mulch business 15 years ago and makes more money selling mulch than he does selling fuel now. But that's, you know, how he got into it. And you know, you obviously, this industry is just packed with good business people. So if you can diversify into an area that works for you, that's more of a summertime business, off-season business, that's another option.
Thank you. Good discussion. Good discussion. Let's change it up a little bit. And we spent a lot of the day talking about the CLCPA and all the change, dramatic change that it's going to bring to New York State and the state energy mix. What do you think your business should do to prepare for the implementation of this legislation?
I think educate is probably the most important thing we can do for customers. I use my wife as an example. She has no idea what we burn in our house, whether it's fuel, propane, electric. But you know, if you asked her where electricity came from, she would have no clue. And I would venture to say probably a lot of people don't. It's on. It's like magic. And you know, when you see a truck pull up to your house, you're a little bit more engaged on where it comes from, and you start to think maybe this isn't renewable. But to really educate the customers on the challenges of electric and electric only environment, and what that really means, I think we've got an uphill battle because there's a lot of good sound bites that they have, the proponents of this legislation. But I also think the most important thing we can do is not let it get, to be diplomatic with it, not let it get political. I think once you do that, you kind of draw some lines in the sand and you already divide your customer base if you make it political. And we've just tried to be as diplomatic as we can with it and work with everybody and educate everybody and just stick to the facts.
I echo what Jared said. I mean, I think that's absolutely the right course. There, you know, everyone's got their own opinion on this. I just don't see any way that this thing could be implemented. You know, someone, you know, I was talking about electric cars with someone. They said, how about, like, we live in a house. How about people that live in apartments? How are they going to have electric cars? Where are they going to plug in? Does that mean every apartment house is going to have a hookup at every one of their parking spots for people to fuel up? I mean, it just is, you know, quite frankly, in my opinion, ridiculous legislation, but that's what we have. I just think it's so restrictive. I can't see it happening. On the positive note, you know, I think if we could focus a little bit as an industry on generators, because I don't see any way the electric grid's gonna handle this. It might be a real opportunity, and it might be an in down the road for some changes. You know, to keep our industry, you know, viable, as we are the, you know, the fuel of last resort, so to speak, when it comes to emergencies and things like generators.
Mike, I'll echo what's already been said, but get our message out there. And this has been said many times, but as an industry, we do a good job communicating to one another. and assuming that others have this broad knowledge. And Jared, I think you hit it, you know, right on the nail, where we have to make sure that we are truly educating consumers on what our product is and what it means. And the other piece of this is we have to make sure that when we're sharing this message, whether it is to our employees to then now be energy stewards to go out and then further share this message, when we're talking to our customers, how does this impact them? You know, what does it mean for them? And we have to get out of, and I think we've gotten there, we have to continue, not what does it mean for us and what does it mean for the propane industry, but what does it really mean and how is this going to impact the end consumer, these constituents, and then that is how you're truly going to get some folks taking a stand, because they're going to see how they will be negatively impacted by these energy plans.
Well, for me, it's basically keep the heck out of New York. But Vermont's got its own issues, and I think that, and I honestly don't know the bill. I understand what you have a bill, and it's very aggressive there. But I think in Vermont, trying to, okay, I happen to sit on what we have a climate council, sitting on one of the subcommittees, at least trying to bend it in a way that's not as punitive as the far left would want to get it. But it's our battle now. It's what we got to deal with and try to work through it.
Anybody taking the if you can't beat them, join them approach?
Well, here at Bourne's, I mean, I'm not saying we can't beat them, join them, but we try to plan. So, but basically what we did, and I'll try to make this long story short as I can, 10 or 12 years ago, we started with the bio. And the reason we started that, I mean, was really, how are you going to differentiate, for us, it was how are we going to differentiate ourselves from our competitors? Everybody's selling oil, everybody's selling propane. We did differentiate. They just happened to be leaning towards the direction that the world wants to go, which is biofuels, and we do wood pellets. And it's really just trying to find out what, feel our way into that, what's the next market going to look like. And by doing that, in our case, we're looked on as some sort of we're the exception for sure, not the rule in Vermont. But it is trying to find it. But it's a bit of a go along. But if we can't get into the game, well, then you can't play.
Any other thoughts on that from anybody?
I guess part of it, we kind of have joined them a little bit. I mean, we do a fair amount of heat pump installs, which is obviously what the state would rather see more of. We've already been doing that for a number of years, found some success with it. But, so I guess I could be considered joining them. But, I dare say if it was the only part of our business, we'd be struggling because it's a small fraction of our total business. So we've got a long way to go. We can't stop it. We just got to redirect it so that we at least can have a seat at the table.
Very good. If anybody else wants to add, throw in a question into the chat, please do so now. I kind of addressed the last question at the same time as the first question, but does anybody have any more thoughts on change management or really any of the questions that we have? Or any new topics?
Yeah, I think Christina, like I mentioned, but the tech centers. So I tell you, the one thing I missed in the last 2 months was buying a lottery ticket, because we picked up 4 young technicians out of the tech school, and one jump right there, and it was like, should have bought the ticket. But the point being, we have a couple tech schools that are in our service areas, and we have relationships. We don't just come there once a year and say, who you got? We stay in touch with them on a regular basis and give them whatever we can give them to support their programs, be it legislatively or be it oil to run test their equipment. I mean, whatever, what do you need? And I really think that, that really, because in our world, what happens historically is the commercial companies, the HVACs, come in and pick these kids up right out of high school. They come in, they throw stupid money at them. The kids just are all gaga and they're out hanging, putting up pipe hangers the rest of their lives. So just really develop those relationships and it'll work out. You'll at least be on the list of you should talk to.
Awesome.
I'll jump in. I mean, change management wise, everybody in our company has a voice. There's only 10 people, relatively small compared to some large fuel companies, but we have weekly meetings, and some of them are every 2 weeks, and we encourage everybody to participate. And sometimes it's the 28-year-old who doesn't maybe understand the nuances of what we do as a business, will just kind of bring us back into focus and say, yeah, but how about this? It's just things you don't think of when you're so involved in the day-to-day. And we have found that really, really helpful to get everyone's input. So I would encourage fuel marketers to do the same. Get the input of your people, whether they're sweeping the floor or whether they're the CEO or CFO of your company.
To add to that, because I really like what Steve said, and I think something we've done fairly well in the past few years is making sure we follow up, because some of the best ideas come from your frontline employees, but they won't continue to bring good ideas if they don't see any action from it. There may not be anything you can do about it, but at least follow up and say, I looked into this issue, I checked on this, whatever, here's why we can't do it, and explaining the whys so that they feel that they had a voice and they're willing to bring something back to the table the next time. Again, they'll just get frustrated and probably think you don't care or you're smarter than they, whatever the case may be. And they just won't have a voice anymore. And I think that really hurts employee morale more than anything, but let them be the eyes and ears and idea makers out there and empower them to do that.
Great points. All right. Well, listen, if there's no other questions from the group, from the participants here, I really appreciate. I thought you had some great insight, and I really appreciate you participating in this panel. Bill, thank you for putting it together. I'll just anybody that has any last words, feel free to speak up now. But I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Definitely
Thank you,
agree.
Thank you.
Agree with Mike. I've received a lot of comments on text message and whatnot, private messages during this discussion, that it's been a very interesting discussion, very strong panel, and I appreciate everyone's time today. Mike, thank you for moderating.